Her phone buzzed against the quarter in her palm as her father slid a contract across the marble. "Sign it," he said. "No more wobble, no more Malik." At that exact moment, Zara's school flashed emergency on the screen, and Tessa had only one hand free. Before we dive in, make sure to hit subscribe, tap like, and share this video. The more voices we reach, the louder these stories become. Money had always been a language I spoke better than anyone around me. It was the accent of my childhood and the grammar of my adulthood, the tutors and summer schools and lacquered staircases, the gala tables where centerpieces cost more than used cars, the hush that fell when I entered a room because my name meant yes. If I needed a door, money built it. If I needed a smile, money rented it. If I needed softness, money simulated it well enough to get me through the night. Tonight, under a museum dome that looked like a pearl cracked open for the rich to sip, all of that should have worked again. My dress hugged my thick, curvy body like I'd been poured into it, black silk behaving badly on purpose. Eyes followed me, men delaying their wives by half steps, women doing inventory the way we've been trained. Laughter glittered. A quartet soared at something expensive. I could have picked anyone at any table and purchased a version of being wanted. But the person who caught me was the one who didn't look up. He was at the service entrance, near a wobbling tray jack and a harried server trying not to cry. Tall, solid without showing off about it. Dark skin that made the overhead fluorescence surrender and go warm. A clean, close haircut, beard trimmed, sleeves rolled to his forearms like he'd come to solve problems and didn't need applause for it. He wrestled a bent caster into alignment with a quarter turn, folded a linen napkin into a shim, and made the world under that server's hands stop wobbling. "Try it now," he said. The girl pushed a tray. It sailed steady as a promise. She exhaled, mouthed thanks, vanished into Money's applause. I stepped toward him because that's what I do when I want something. "You're not staff." He turned then, calm eyes, first summer afternoon soft, independent contractor, logistics. "You fix wobbles." He smiled like he was trying not to. "Tonight, yeah." I expected him to look at me the way men look at me at these things. Instead, he glanced past to make sure no one was about to collide with a sculpture, then back to me. "You okay?" "Perfect," I said, which was the lie I dressed best. "I'm Tessa." A pause, because names sometimes change a conversation. "Tessa March." If recognition hit, he didn't show it. "Malik," he said. "Carter." We stood in the cousin of a hallway where galas pretend to be effortless. I heard my name in the main room, someone thanking me for underwriting the restoration of a fresco, the same speech people give when they're grateful and terrified of needing me again next quarter. I should have gone. Instead, I watched Malik check a list, tuck a pen behind his ear, and straighten a frame that had been a degree off-center for an hour while rich people ignored it. "Do you always make everything tidy?" I asked. "Not everything," he said. "Just the stuff people trip on. There are moments when the script you've memorized slips, when the scene partner improvises, and money can't rescue you. I felt that slip, a sudden draft through a seam in the dress that wasn't supposed to exist. I glanced toward the ballroom. A hedge fund bachelor caught my eye and lifted his glass like a bid paddle. I smiled in the way that says later, maybe if you make it easy. "Walk with me?" I asked Malik. "I'm on the clock." He said it without apology, and somehow that made me want to ask again. "I'll pay for your time." He shook his head. "You're fine right here. If you need a quiet exit, take the north stair. Less cameras." "You notice cameras?" "I notice what can hurt people who don't have a legal team." "Do you?" I said. He checked his watch. "Sometimes." My phone buzzed then. The screen lit with a text from my assistant. "Your remarks are at 9:20. Also, the Sotheby's guy is here. Wants 5 minutes." I stared at it more than I read it. In the reflection, my lipstick looked like a red decision I hadn't fully made. A different sound cut through. Malik's phone, not the expensive chime of my own, but a plain rattle, like a coin in a glass. He glanced at the number and took a step away. Thumbed accept. "Hey, Star!" His voice lowered into something that didn't belong to this building. "You good? There are parts of other people's lives you're not supposed to hear." I heard anyway, because I've never learned to look away when something real leaks out. Her voice on the other end was high and urgent, and I caught phrases, "Cardboard volcano due tomorrow, Mama said," like the bright ends of string. "Breathe," Malik said. He put a hand on the wall, not to lean, but to anchor the conversation somewhere. Okay, tell me what you've got. Oven box is fine. Glue the foil. No, the sticky kind works. Remember, the baking soda goes in after you get to class. Trust me, I'll be home before you go to bed. A beat. His shoulders softened. Love you more. He hung up and found me still there, which would have embarrassed me if embarrassment hadn't aged out of my life sometime around my third acquisition. Daughter? I asked. Zara, he said, and the name lived in his mouth like sunlight. 4th grade scientist. You're a single dad. It came out like an accusation. Maybe I was accusing the world of making him do it alone. He nodded. Since she was 3. I wanted, suddenly and viciously, to buy them both a better life. Not as a gift, because gifts still keep you in charge. As a purchase, renovate their apartment, erase whatever debt, build him a company just so he could run it and never have to fold napkins into shims again. It was the reflex I trusted. See need, deploy resources, control the outcome. What does the Volcano need? I asked. Aluminum foil and patience, he said. We have one. Working on the other. I could. I stopped myself. I could call someone, was what I meant. I could have a box of every supply in the city delivered in an hour, plus a grad student to coach the eruption angle and a cinematographer to turn it into a viral video. I swallowed all that and said instead, I hated science fairs. He chuckled. Zara loves them because you're allowed to make a mess and adults clap. I could feel my speech time sneaking closer, the way a tide creeps under a pier. Somewhere, a coordinator with a headset was whispering my name. My body, meanwhile, was busy falling into the shape of this hallway and this man, a geometry without equations. Come with me, I said, before I could game it out. There are people in that room who will pretend to love me for 90 seconds and then ask for a wing named after them. Stand next to me while I talk. Why? He asked, not unkindly. So I don't feel like a product being launched. He weighed it, then gently, It's not my job to hold you up. What is your price, Malik? I asked, my voice too sharp to pass as flirting. Everyone in there has one. I don't, he said. I have a budget. Something in me looked down, embarrassed as a teenager caught posing. I didn't mean... I know what you meant. A busser rushed by, tray stacked with champagne flutes. The top glass shivered toward the edge. Malik's hand shot out, 2 fingers catching the stem as if he'd rehearsed it all day. He steadied it, returned his hand to his pocket, never once looked to see if anyone had noticed his unshowy heroics. They hadn't. I had. What would you do, I asked, if money wasn't the first tool you reached for? He considered that like it was a real question, and I was a real person. Ask you what you're actually afraid of. I laughed because it was easier, missing my cue. Try me. My father taught me that love is a polite contract, I said. Deliverables, exit clauses. How's that working? Lucrative. He nodded like he just diagnosed a leak, but not cheap. A woman in a sequined column appeared in the doorway, breathless with borrowed authority. Miss March, they're ready for you. I should have moved. Instead, I took 1 step closer to Malik. Up close, I could see the small nick at his jawline where a razor had learned a lesson this morning, the faint circle of a bottle cap impression on his palm, the kind of details money never buys because it never notices. Will you be here when I'm done? I asked. I promised I'd be home by 9, he said. Volcano security. Come after, I said. I'll pay for your car. He smiled in a way that made me want to stop performing. I drive my own, and I don't take tips for doing what I was already going to do. What were you already going to do? Make sure people don't trip. Get home to my kid. He tilted his head toward the ballroom. Go. Say the words. If they clap, great. If they don't, it's still your name on the fresco. He turned back to his list like the conversation had been a kindness, not a transaction. I let myself be escorted into the white light and curated applause, said the lines about art being a public good and culture widening the circle, watched men nod because they recognized a ledger under my metaphors. When it was over, when the applause slid off like a silk slip, I went back to the hallway. It was empty except for the tray jack and the frame now perfectly straight. On the floor, half hidden under a chair, I found the quarter Malik had used as a makeshift tool. I picked it up. It was warm, like a small thing that had spent time in someone's hand. Back in the ballroom, the hedge fund bachelor was waiting with a vintage Bordeaux and a smile he'd rehearsed in reflective surfaces. He asked where I'd been. I said, fixing a wobble. He didn't get it. Most people don't. I slid the quarter into my clutch like a talisman, like proof that something unpurchasable had brushed past me and left a mark. For the first time in years, the night felt expensive in a way money couldn't pay for. Don't forget to subscribe for more intense cinematic love stories. Your click helps us make the next chapter. The next morning, I woke up before the city remembered itself and lay still, listening for the old ache to arrive on cue. Usually it came like a concierge, coffee, inbox, noise, anything to keep from feeling the hollow. Instead, the first thing I felt was the quarter in my palm. I must have fallen asleep holding it. It had left a round warmth in my skin, like a small sun had been pressed there and taken away. My assistant texted at 6:12. Reminder, you're 9 a.m. with the foundation director. I typed back move to 12 and stared at the 3 dots pulsing as she decided whether I'd lost my mind. The girl who ran my calendars had never met a boundary she didn't like. I had never met one that stuck. I wanted to call Malik, to say something that wouldn't sound like I was trying to buy the next 10 minutes of his attention. Instead, I opened my laptop and did the thing I am best at. I found a legitimate reason. Find me a contractor who handles small residential fixes, I said out loud to my empty kitchen, then sent the same to my assistant with a too-casual addendum. If Carter Logistics has residential referrals, start there. Her reply came back in minutes. Carter hand to heart, licensed, bonded, high reviews for honesty and punctuality. They do small jobs Saturdays. Availability today 4-6 p.m. Confirmation? Yes, I typed faster than the thought. Then I stood in my closet and rejected half my wardrobe because everything I owned shouted. I settled on jeans and a white silk shirt that softened at the waist without apologizing for my body. When I checked my reflection, the woman looking back at me was thick and curved and expensive, and for once, undecided about what she wanted people to see. At 4:07, my intercom buzzed. Miss March? Hand to heart. I told the doorman to send them up, then panicked at my living room like I'd invited judgment itself. There was nothing to hide, no dust, no imbalance, because I bought people to make sure of that. Still, I moved the quarter from my clutch to the edge of a shelf, where a barely perceptible wobble lived, defiant, as if daring me to pretend again. The elevator opened. Malik stepped out carrying a canvas tool bag and a clipboard. Beside him, a girl who could only be Zara tucked a sketchbook under her arm and took the room in with eyes that were entirely her own. Hi, she said, bright as a switch. We brought shoe covers. Also, we're late 2 minutes, I'm sorry. You're on time, I said, which was new territory for me. Do you want water? Juice? Zara looked at Malik. He nodded. Water is perfect. Sparkling makes me hiccup. I went to the kitchen to pour, hands clumsy in familiar cupboards. When I turned back, Malik was already kneeling by the shelf I'd pretended didn't need him, steadying the frame of my life with his palm. Here's your culprit, he said, tapping the back leg. The felt pad's worn. You've been shimming it with... He reached for the coin and then paused. May I? It's yours, I said before I could think. Well, not literally. You used one like it last night. He smiled, that small private thing. Quarters are multi-tool number 1 for people who fix what other people step around. I wanted a reason to call, I said. This isn't a catastrophe. Most things aren't, he said. He peeled the old felt, replaced it with a new one from a tidy packet, and levelled the shelf with a small bubble vial he pulled from his bag. The green eye found the centre like it had been waiting all its life to rest. Zara drifted to my piano like current toward light. Do you play? Badly, in college, I said, and when I'm drunk with conviction. She pressed one careful key. The note hung like a question. My class is doing a talent show. Most kids sing or dance. I'm doing volcano sounds. That's incredible. It's just a speaker under the table and a playlist, she said, dismissing her own invention the way girls learn to do when they haven't had enough adults clap for the right things. Daddy's helping with the wiring. Malik looked up then, not to interrupt, just to make sure her confidence was holding. The room rearranged. Everything expensive felt less important than the way his attention travelled to his daughter and back, like breath. I have something for you, I blurted before I could stop the reflex. I had, of course. An assistant had an assistant deliver a gift bag that sat now by my sofa, a deluxe science kit with enough baking soda to launch a small boat and LED strips to outline a volcano like a runway. The ribbon was the sort that photographs well. I lifted it and immediately hated it. I set it down again. This was a bad idea. Zara touched the ribbon with reverence. It's pretty. Malik's eyes found mine. They weren't judgmental exactly. They were careful. It felt like help, I said, quieter. Now it feels like control. It can be help, he said, if it's invited, if it doesn't take the part where she figures something out with her own hands. Zara peered into the bag like a raccoon at a campsite. Do I have to say thank you? You have to say what you feel, Malik said. Okay, she said, considering. It's too much, but the ribbon is elite. I laughed, grateful for a release valve. Keep the ribbon, I said, and the vinegar. The rest can live here until you decide. Malik replaced his level and stood, scanning the shelf. He didn't say nice place because people who actually fix things never comment on the view. Anything else wobbling? Only me, I said, and immediately wished I could cram the words back into my mouth. He didn't make me pay for vulnerability with a joke. That's not a thing a pad can fix. What does fix it? I asked, also braver than I meant to be. Rules, he said. We keep 3 at home. Tell the truth. Don't make something safe feel dangerous. Don't make something dangerous feel safe. Who wrote them? The kid, he said, looking towards Zara like she was a board of directors he happened to report to. After we both had a week where we broke all 3. Zara flipped her sketchbook to a page that read House Rules in pencil block letters and 3 bullet points with doodles. A heart for truth, a seatbelt for safety, a little volcano with a warning sign. I made them cute, she said, which made me love her. I went to the counter and wrote a check, because even when I'm trying not to pay my way out, there are things you pay for. Malik took it and glanced down and then, this was new, handed it back. You already paid the service fee, he said. This is a tip. Tips are how this works, I said. You drive across the city, you bring your daughter, you fix my life feeling a centimetre straighter. You take the tip. I don't let Zara watch me say yes to money I didn't earn, he said, level as the bubble in his tool. She's learning the price of everything and the value of everything else. Will you at least let me feed you? The moment the words left, I flushed, because it sounded like exactly what it was, me trying to buy proximity. We eat at home on school nights, he said. No screens, no phones. She talks for 20 minutes about a cardboard volcano and then forgets to breathe while she eats. Zara wheezed a fake gasp to demonstrate and then giggled at herself. It disarmed me completely. Do you ever make exceptions? I asked, but it came out softer, like a plea. For good reasons, he said. Not for good restaurants. What's a good reason? Burned in my throat. The old me would have rattled off a reservation under a chef's first name. The woman standing in this room pulled out the quarter and rolled it between her fingers until the impulse calmed. What if I come to you, I said instead, surprising myself. Not your house, somewhere you already were going to be. I'll stand in the back, I won't sponsor anything. Zara perked up. Library story time is Sunday, Daddy does the voices wrong. Maybe you could do them right. Rude, Malik said, smiling at her. Then to me, we're there every Sunday at 10. If you want to help, bring patience. It's the currency. I nodded, throat tight. I have a little of that. He shouldered his bag. But that Zara slid the ribbon into her backpack like a secret. At the door, Malik paused. I'm not. This isn't. I know, I said. You're not for sale. Neither are you, he said, and something behind my ribs stood up to agree. After they left, the apartment felt different, like someone had opened a window in a room I thought was sealed. I walked to the shelf and pressed gently. It held. The picture frames didn't chatter. Across the glass of the piano lid, my reflection looked less lacquered and more human, as if the polish had finally dried and left the wood beneath visible. At 9, my phone lit with the hedge fund bachelor's name. I let it buzz out. At 9:10, my assistant texted a draft for Monday's speech that hinged on legacy and leverage. I typed back, cut leverage, add listen. Sunday came like a dare. I pulled my hair into a practical knot and put on a dress that fit my body the way a favourite chair fits, welcoming without performing. Outside the library, clusters of parents wrangled small people with bright shoes and louder opinions. No one glanced at me except a toddler who pointed and announced, "Pink," at my lipstick like a weather alert. Malik spotted me and lifted a hand, neither summoning nor claiming, just making room beside him. Zara handed me a pair of felt antlers from a craft bin. "Today is Animal Voices," she said, businesslike. "You can be the deer." "I don't know how deer talk," I confessed. "They don't," she said triumphantly. "That's the point. You have to show it with your eyebrows." Malik laughed low. "Welcome to the value of everything else." As we filed into the children's corner, a woman I'd seen at 5 committees and 3 galas slid past with a stroller. Her eyes grazed me, moved on, and then doubled back with delayed recognition. "Tessa," she said as if we were in the wrong scene. "I didn't know you had time for this." "I didn't," I said. "I do now." She blinked. "We're fundraising for the new wing," she began. "Not today," I said, and pointed at my borrowed antlers. "Today I'm busy." I watched her recalibrate and step away, and for a second I felt the old panic that comes when you leave a script mid-sentence. Then Zara tugged my sleeve, serious as a stage manager. "Eyebrows," she whispered. "Up." I lifted them. The room rippled with child laughter. Malik sat cross-legged on the carpet, his hands open on his knees like a man who knew how to steady a wobble without touching it. And somewhere between the first page and the last, with no champagne and no applause and no ledger under the metaphors, something in me stopped trying to earn my way into the room and simply arrived. By the 3rd Sunday, the librarian didn't bother asking my name. She handed me the felt antlers like a backstage pass and said, "Deer needs eyebrows again." And I went where Zara pointed and did as told. Afterward, Malik packed the craft bin with the same care he used on tray jacks and picture frames, and we walked to the corner for cocoa. He held his cup in both hands like warmth was something to be stewarded, not gulped. It was easy to pretend the world would let us live in this small, soft rhythm. But money has a way of sending for you even when you don't RSVP. On a Thursday afternoon, 2 hours into a board meeting where men praised strategic generosity like it was a sacrament, my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail, then saw the transcribed words. School, gym, power, cancel, volcano night. I stood up before my name finished echoing off the oak paneling. "Emergency," I said. No one asked what kind. Emergencies were what staff handled. I took the elevator like a lifeboat and texted Malik, on my way to the school. "What do you need?" His reply was a minute later. "Need you to drive safe. Everything else we can figure out." By the time I reached the gym, the air smelled like floor wax, panic, and 1,000 paper programs. The principal, a woman whose cardigan had seen too much, explained the situation. A blown breaker, a borrowed speaker with a warped stand, a janitor trying to be 3 people at once. "We may have to postpone," she said, looking at parents like they were a storm she hoped would blow over. I looked at Malik. He looked at Zara, who held a poster board volcano with so much tape it could have survived weather. Her mouth was brave. Her eyes were 4th grade terrified. "Let's not cancel," I said. "Let's fix wobbles." The janitor, a man with shoulders that had carried other people's emergencies for a decade, lifted his chin at me. "You know your way around a breaker box?" "No," I said, with a new honesty that felt like clean air. "But I know phones, lists, and triage." We divided the gym into problems. Malik took sound. I took everything that could be made better by tape, labels, and permission. We found extension cords in a closet of forgotten ambitions. I coaxed the PTA president out of performative despair and into running a coffee line. A group of dads who could bench press their feelings became an assembly line of chair levelers. When the warped stand threatened to send the microphone sliding, I reached into my pocket, found the quarter, and tightened the loosened screw until the metal stopped complaining. "Nice," the janitor said, impressed in the way of people who notice tools more than titles. "You work here?" "Tonight," I said, and meant it. Halfway through, my father called, his ringtone the same Bach prelude he'd assigned my childhood like homework. I stared at his name until it went to voicemail and then texted, "Can't talk. Volcano night." He answered with a question mark, then a follow-up, "You cannot be serious." I typed and erased 3 answers, then sent one word, "very." Malik caught my eye. I shook my head. "Not now." He nodded and went back to coaxing sound out of an old speaker like a mechanic listening for a good engine under the noise. The gym filled. Parents arrived in their Thursday clothes. Scrubs, paint-smeared hoodies, suits shrugging off the day. No one cared who I was. A girl in purple glitter asked if I knew how to staple programs without making them crooked. No, I said. Show me. I wanted to kiss the floor for the lesson. 5 minutes before showtime, Zara's face pinched. The vinegar, she whispered. We left it on the counter. The grocery is far. We're ruined. Tears pooled, then fought back. This girl's first battlefield. I didn't reach for my wallet. I ran. The cafeteria smelled like ketchup, lost mittens, and school days. I elbowed into a storage room and prayed to any god who cares about fourth graders. On a back shelf sat a crate of giant jugs with white caps, the label blessedly plain, distilled vinegar. I heaved one up like a trophy and sprinted back, breathless in heels I had once worn to buy a company. When I returned, the gym applauded like I just set a broken bone. Malik took the jug, tested the cap, met my eyes, and with a grin that burned my throat, mouthed, "Patience, currency." Zara squeezed my hand. "You're fast." "Dear R," I said, and lifted my eyebrows until she smiled. The show began. Kids told jokes with the timing of brave people. A boy rapped his spelling words. A girl did a magic trick that worked in the way of things done with full belief. The microphone stayed where it should. The parents clapped like revelation. Zara was near the end. Malik knelt with her behind the cardboard mountain, whispering. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see the cadence. Breathe in, count, look at me. You've got this. Truth, safety, safety, truth. Their rules like a handrail. When her name was called, I felt something under my ribs open a window. She walked out like a comet with bangs. "This is my volcano," she said into the mic that didn't wobble. "It's called Don't Make Safe Things Dangerous, or Dangerous Things Safe." The parents laughed, the right kind. She lined up the ingredients, narrated like a scientist poet, and then, when a cable crackled and a low buzz threatened to devour the tiny speaker, we all held our breath. Malik glanced under the table. The clamp had slipped. The sound would die in 30 seconds if someone didn't hold it. "I've got it," I said to no one and everyone, and slid onto my knees beside the table, one hand steadying the clamp, the other lifting the microphone stand a hair. The quarter dug into my palm and felt like purpose. Zara tipped the vinegar. The volcano hissed, then roared. Foam climbed, then spilled like joy, and a gym full of bruised adults and brave children clapped their hands raw because a small thing had gone right in front of them, and they needed that proof. Zara bowed too deeply and then popped up with a squeak. "Thank you to my dad," she said, hunting the bleachers for his face, "and my friend Tessa, who runs fast and can fix a wobble even in a dress." I tried not to cry. I failed. It wasn't elegant. It was real. After clean-up, when the gym was back to smelling like next week, we stood under the spill of a streetlight that turned breath into fog. Malik folded the event map into a square and slid it into his pocket like he might need to remember the way this night went. "You didn't try to buy any of that," he said. "I wanted to," I admitted. "At least twice." "What stopped you?" I opened my hand. The quarter sat warm from my grip. "The difference between price and value," I said, "and a kid who asked me to use my eyebrows instead of my credit card." He laughed softly, then let it fade. "There's something we should talk about before this becomes a thing we can't untangle." "My favorite kind of talk," I said, bracing. "I like you," he said. "I like the woman who runs toward a problem with tape and patience. I like the one who told a boardroom to wait so she could watch a paper volcano work. But I need you to know that Zara comes first, and I don't make promises I can't keep." "I'm not asking you to," I said. "I don't even know what I'm asking. I only know that when I'm with you two, I stop being a product I launch." He searched my face for the part where money hid. I let him. "I can't give you the life you're used to," he said. "I can give you a table that wobbles until we figure it out together. I can give you a kid who will roast your dear voice if you phone it in. I can give you dinners at home where the phone lives in a drawer until dishes are done." I closed my fingers around the quarter, feeling the old reflex flicker, and go quiet. "I don't want the life I'm used to," I said. "I want a life where I earn my seat at the table by showing up with my hands." He stepped closer, not looming, not claiming, just entering the space I'd kept armored for years. "We can try," he said, slowly, honestly. "I don't know how to do slow," I confessed. "You learned eyebrows in 2 Sundays," he said. "You'll learn this." Zara burst out of the doors then, backpack bouncing, ribbon I'd given her braided into the zipper like a victorious flag. "We got ice cream because we didn't cancel," she announced to the night. "Miss Tessa, do you want to come? We always talk about our favourite part, and the part we'd change, and the part we'd keep forever." "Yes," I said. "No committee meeting needed. I want all of that." At the ice cream place, we sat in a booth with a rip in the vinyl someone had mended with clear tape and hope. Our phones stayed in our bags. Zara talked for 20 minutes about foam viscosity and the ethics of glitter. Malik listened with the patience of a continent. When it was my turn, I said my favourite part was the sound of grown-ups clapping for small, brave things. The part I'd change was the cable that tried to quit. The part I'd keep forever was the way a quarter can be a tool when you decide your hands aren't only for signing checks. On the walk back to the car, Malik took my hand. It wasn't a performance. It was an agreement. "One more thing," he said, and pressed the quarter back into my palm. "Keep it. Not as payment. As a reminder." "To fix wobbles?" I asked. "To reach for your hands first," he said. "Then if you need help, ask. We'll figure it out." We stood there a long time under a moon that looked like a button sewn on by someone who didn't trust the sky to stay. Cars passed. Somewhere a siren went and faded. Zara skipped ahead and circled back like a satellite who knew exactly what she loved. When we finally moved, I tucked the quarter into my pocket and felt it settle like it had found home. Money could still buy me doors, and I would still walk through some of them. But the life I wanted, the one where love didn't arrive with an invoice, was a room you couldn't purchase, only build. One felt pad at a time, one rule at a time, one Sunday at a time. We crossed the street. The light changed for us like it had been waiting.